Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like something was stolen from you, but you couldn't quite explain what it was? Maybe it was your confidence, maybe it was your peace. Or maybe it was something even deeper, your sense of who you are. That's emotional manipulation. And the truth is, most of us have been its victim, often without even realizing it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever apologized for something you didn't do just to keep the peace? Have you felt guilty for setting boundaries that were necessary for your well-being? Or maybe you've trusted someone only to realize later that your kindness was used as a weapon against you. If any of that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And this video, this message, is for you. Now, I'm not here to make you paranoid or afraid. I'm here to help you see clearly, because clarity is power. And from a Stoic point of view, power doesn't come from controlling others or bending them to our will. It comes from mastering ourselves. The great Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the heart of what we're going to do together. When someone tries to manipulate you, they're trying to control your emotions, your reactions, your decisions. They want to push your buttons, make you feel responsible for their feelings, and slowly, quietly move the center of control from inside you to them. And unless we're trained to see it, unless we've built our inner fortress, we won't even notice it's happening. That's why today is so important. In the next moments we share, I'm going to walk with you through 16 protective strategies, each one rooted in timeless Stoic wisdom. These aren't abstract philosophies you learn and forget. These are tools, mental armor if you will, that will help you spot manipulation before it takes root. Tools that will help you stay grounded when someone tries to shake your soul. And tools that, if practiced, can restore a deep, unshakable peace in your life. Now let me be clear, Stoicism doesn't mean becoming cold, emotionless, or distant. That's a common misunderstanding. Stoicism is about staying present. It's about not being tossed around by every emotion, every guilt trip, or every dramatic outburst someone throws at you. It's about standing still in the storm, not because you're numb, but because you've trained yourself not to fear the wind. I want you to think of yourself like a mountain, tall, grounded, unmoved by storms, unshaken by passing clouds. Manipulators will come like wind and rain, trying to reshape you, trying to wear you down. But with these strategies, you'll become the kind of person who doesn't collapse. You'll become someone who knows the difference between reacting and responding, someone who doesn't give away their peace just to be liked, someone who sees clearly, speaks truthfully, and lives with strength and grace. Because here's the reality. Emotional manipulation is everywhere. It's in families, in friendships, in relationships, in workplaces. And it doesn't always look like abuse. Sometimes it looks like love. Sometimes it looks like loyalty. Sometimes it even looks like a compliment. That's what makes it so dangerous, and that's why today we shine the light on it, we expose it, and we build ourselves up to meet it, not with fear, but with wisdom. So if you've ever felt like you were losing yourself trying to please others, if you've ever second-guessed your own truth because someone made you feel crazy for speaking it, or if you've ever wanted to feel strong, calm, and in control no matter what someone throws at you, stay with me. This is your time to reclaim your clarity. This is your time to draw the line, not in anger, but in strength, because emotional manipulation is real, but so is your power. And once you see the game, you don't have to play it. Once you understand your mind, you don't have to surrender it. And once you stand with the wisdom of the Stoics, you become someone who cannot be moved. Let's begin. The first strategy we're going to dive into is this: know your inner fortress. What does that mean exactly? The Stoics had this beautiful idea that inside every human being is an unshakable core, a citadel that no one, not even the most cunning manipulator, can breach unless you open the gate for them. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel. It's the part of you that decides, the part that reflects, the part that chooses how to respond no matter what pressures come from the outside. Now here's where it gets real. Most people live as if they're completely exposed. They let every insult sink into their skin. They let every disappointed look break their spirit. They give away their emotional weather to anyone who walks by. But when you live like that, you are essentially standing in a battlefield with no armor, no shield, no strategy. Knowing your inner fortress means remembering that what others say or do is outside your control. What's inside your control? Your thoughts, your beliefs, your choices. When someone tries to manipulate you through guilt, through flattery, through gaslighting, they're trying to breach that inner fortress, but they can't get in unless you let them. So here's the practice. When you feel pulled into emotional chaos, pause. Step back. Ask yourself, is this person reaching into my fortress or am I handing them the keys? If they say, if you really loved me, you'd do this, your inner fortress says, love isn't proven through pressure. If they say, you're the reason I'm upset, your inner fortress says, their emotions are their responsibility. This isn't about being cold, it's about being sovereign. It's about remembering that you have the final say on what enters your mind. You don't let a stranger walk into your house without knocking. Why let them walk into your soul? And one more thing. Strengthening your inner fortress isn't something that happens once and then you're done. It's daily. It's a decision you make every time you're tempted to give your power away for the sake of comfort. The more you practice, the more automatic it becomes. You start to see manipulation not as a threat, but as a signal, a reminder to go inward, not outward. So I want you to start building that fortress. Brick by brick, thought by thought, practice saying to yourself, I control my mind. I control my response. Nothing gets in without my permission. That's the first layer of protection. Now let's move into the second. Observe, don't absorb. This is one of the most powerful shifts you can make when dealing with manipulation. Because manipulators thrive on one thing, your emotional reactivity. They poke, they prod, they push your buttons, waiting for you to explode or apologize or bend to their will. And if you're absorbing everything, every insult, every complaint, every passive-aggressive comment, you're giving them exactly what they want, control. But the moment you shift into observation, the game changes. Let's talk about what that looks like. Imagine someone is laying into you. Maybe they're angry, disappointed, or passive-aggressively hinting that you're the problem. The instinct is to react, to defend yourself, to get emotional. But a Stoic, someone trained in mental clarity, pauses. They take a breath, they watch. They listen, not to react, but to understand. This doesn't mean you agree. It doesn't mean you're a doormat. It means you choose clarity over chaos. You learn to witness the emotion without becoming the emotion. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, said this: when someone irritates you, it is your own response that is irritating you. He's pointing out that your mind is the filter. If you absorb every emotional wave that comes your way, you drown. But if you observe it from the shore, you remain dry. You remain free, and this observation isn't passive, it's active. It's you mentally saying, I see what's happening, I see the pattern, I don't have to react. I get to choose. That choice, that space, is where your power lives. Here's a practice for you. The next time someone tries to hook your emotions, pause. Don't explain, don't defend, just observe. Ask yourself, what is this person really trying to do here? Maybe they want control. Maybe they want pity. Maybe they want to shift blame. But by observing, not absorbing, you keep your center. You hold your ground. You're no longer a puppet on their strings. You're the one holding the strings of your own mind. And here's what's incredible. Once you start doing this, manipulators get frustrated. They lose their grip. Because they can't twist someone who doesn't flinch. They can't guilt-trip someone who's calmly watching, not reacting. You stop being their game board and suddenly they don't know how to play. So remember this second strategy every time you feel emotionally hijacked. Observe, don't absorb. Breathe, watch. Stay grounded. Your emotions are sacred. Don't give them away so easily. This is your mind. Guard it. This is your heart. Protect it. Let their storm rage, but stay the sky above it. You're doing the work. You're seeing the game. Now let's keep going. Do not trade peace for approval. This one cuts deep because so many of us, without even realizing it, have made approval our currency. Somewhere along the way, we learned that being liked meant being safe, that keeping the peace meant keeping our worth, that if someone was upset with us, it meant we had done something wrong. But that's a lie, and it's one that emotional manipulators use masterfully. Here's the thing. People-pleasing feels like love, but it's actually fear in disguise. It's fear of rejection, fear of being seen as selfish, fear of losing connection. And when we're living to gain approval, we give others the power to control our emotions. That's not peace, it's bondage dressed up as harmony. The Stoics had no interest in being liked. That might sound harsh, but it's the truth. They lived by principles, not by praise. Marcus Aurelius said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own." Let that settle. How often do we betray our own peace just to get a nod from someone else? How often do we agree to things that drain us, or smile when we want to speak up, or say yes when everything in us is screaming no, just to avoid disapproval? And it's not just in obvious situations. Manipulators use subtle guilt, flattery, and passive pressure. They might say, "I thought you were different," or "I guess I can't count on you," or "Everyone else agrees with me." Each of those phrases is designed to make you second-guess your truth and reach for their approval like a lifeline. But here's the shift. What if you started seeing peace as your real approval? What if your conscience became the only vote that mattered? When you stop living for their applause, you start living for your alignment. That's where peace lives. Here's a little practice. Next time you feel the pull to say yes just to be liked, stop. Ask yourself, if I say yes to them, am I saying no to myself? That question can change everything, because every time you silence yourself to keep someone else happy, you create inner noise. Every time you abandon your boundaries, you lose a piece of your soul. And for what? A moment of approval? A compliment that disappears tomorrow? Real strength is choosing peace over popularity. Real integrity is disappointing others rather than betraying yourself. The world doesn't need more agreeable people. It needs more honest ones. So if someone disapproves of your truth, let them. If someone walks away because you respected your boundary, let them. You don't need their approval, you need your own. And when you live from that place, solid, whole, grounded, manipulators lose their power because they can't control someone who doesn't fear being disliked. This is the third strategy. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Now let's go even deeper. Detach from praise and blame. This one is a master key to emotional freedom. Because it's not just disapproval that manipulates us. Sometimes it's praise. Compliments can be just as controlling as criticism, especially when they come with strings attached. Have you ever had someone say something like, "You're so good at making people feel special," and then subtly expect you to always be available to them? Or maybe someone called you the strong one, and now they get upset whenever you have needs or show vulnerability. That's emotional manipulation through praise. See, the Stoics taught that both praise and blame belong to the external world. That means they are not part of you. They are opinions, shadows, echoes. Epictetus said, "If you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your integrity. If you need a witness, Be your own. That's the foundation of true freedom, because as long as you depend on praise to feel worthy, you'll be just as wounded by blame. And here's how it usually works. A manipulator might build you up just so they can tear you down. They might flatter you to get you hooked, and then withdraw approval to make you chase it. It's the classic cycle: idealize, devalue, discard. The only way out of that cycle is to stop riding the highs and lows of other people's opinions. You have to become neutral, not numb. Neutral, which means I appreciate kind words, but I don't depend on them. I hear criticism, but I don't let it define me. I stay centered because I know who I am when no one's watching. I know my intention, my values, my truth. That's what I stand on. Not applause, not rejection. And this isn't just about defense, it's about power. When you stop chasing praise, you become unshakable. You're no longer dancing for approval. You're walking your path with or without the crowd. And when you live like that, manipulators can't hook you with sweet words or silence you with disapproval. So here's something you can try. Next time someone praises you, instead of basking in it or getting addicted to it, pause, thank them. But then ask yourself, if they never said this, would I still know this about myself? If the answer is yes, you're rooted. If not, that's your work. Detach from the applause. Detach from the blame. Return to your center. You'll find a peace there that no manipulator can ever reach. You're doing the inner work. You're waking up to your strength. Let's keep moving. Clarify your values and live by them. This is where we stop playing defense and start going on the offense. Because when you know your values, really know them, not just as words but as daily choices, you become incredibly difficult to manipulate. Why? Because manipulators rely on confusion. They prey on people who don't know what they stand for. When you're unclear, they become your compass. But when you're clear, they lose their map. Think about it. If someone doesn't know what honesty means to them, it's easy to lie to them in a way that sounds like truth. If someone hasn't defined loyalty, then betrayal can hide in the disguise of love. But when you live by your values, you start seeing the world through a sharper lens. You stop falling for words and start measuring people by their alignment with your core principles. The Stoics believed in living by virtue, not results. Not rewards, not the opinions of others. Virtue. That meant things like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These weren't abstract ideals, they were guiding stars. Seneca said, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." Translation. If you don't know where you're going, anyone can take the wheel. So let me ask you directly. What do you value? Not what your parents told you. Not what the culture says. You. What matters to you so deeply that you're willing to be misunderstood to stay aligned with it? What lines will you not cross, even when pressured? If you've never taken time to write that down, this is your moment. When you know your values, manipulation stands out like a red flag. Because it tries to pull you away from them. It asks you to lie when you value honesty, to tolerate abuse when you value dignity, to stay silent when you value truth. And the moment you feel that pull, you get to say, no, that's not who I am. And yes, there's a cost to living by your values. Sometimes it means walking away. Sometimes it means disappointing people. Sometimes it means standing alone. But the reward? Peace, confidence, integrity, that unshakable feeling that you are living your truth, not renting your soul to keep someone else comfortable. So clarify your values. Write them, speak them, live them. Let them become your boundary lines. Let them be your compass when emotions get loud and manipulation creeps in. Because when your values are clear, your decisions get easier. And when your decisions are rooted in truth, your life becomes solid ground, no matter how hard someone tries to shake it. Now let's talk about something manipulators fear more than anything. Embrace discomfort to grow resilient. This might be the most counterintuitive strategy because most of us are taught to chase comfort. We want ease. We want smooth relationships. We want approval without friction. But here's the Stoic truth. Comfort is not always your friend. In fact, it's often the bait. Manipulators know this. They know you don't want to feel guilty, so they use guilt to control you. They know you don't want conflict, so they use silence and withdrawal to make you panic. They know you want harmony, so they weaponize your desire for peace against you. The result, you fold. You say yes when you mean no. You apologize just to end the tension. You go along just to avoid discomfort. But the Stoics had a completely different relationship with discomfort. They embraced it, trained in it. They believed that to become strong, you had to face the very things you were tempted to run from. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's not just poetic. It's a blueprint for power. So here's the truth. If you're willing to feel uncomfortable, even for a little while, you become immune to most manipulation. If you can sit with someone's disappointment and not rush to fix it, you're free. If you can tolerate a bit of silence, a bit of tension, a bit of disapproval without betraying yourself, you've already won. Because most manipulation only works on those who fear discomfort more than they value truth. This is something you can build, by the way. It's not something you're born with. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort all the time. They fasted, slept on hard surfaces, walked in the cold, not to punish themselves, but to train their minds, to remind themselves that they were stronger than their cravings, that they could do hard things and stay calm. You can do the same in your emotional life. Practice saying no, even when it feels awkward. Practice pausing before you rush to apologize. Practice hearing someone else's feelings without making them your responsibility. Each time you lean into that discomfort instead of avoiding it, you're building resilience. And each time you grow more resilient, manipulation loses its grip. Because the truth is, you will face moments where standing firm will feel like fire, where saying your truth will bring tension, where walking away will ache. But if you can face that pain and still do the right thing, you are becoming powerful. Not the kind of power that dominates others, but the kind that no one can steal. That's what Stoicism offers, a strength built on endurance, a calm built on courage, a life built on truth, not comfort. So start now. Embrace the hard moments. Don't run, don't fold. Let them shape you. Let them teach you that your peace is not found in avoiding pain, but in facing it and realizing it cannot break you. You're not here to be comfortable. You're here to become unshakable. Let's keep going. Practice the pause. This is one of the most underrated forms of power you can ever develop. When someone tries to emotionally manipulate you, their number one weapon is urgency. They want you to react fast. They want you emotional, impulsive, defensive, or ashamed. Why? Because when you're in that state, you're not thinking clearly. You're not grounded. You're easier to steer. And most people, without even noticing, hand over their decisions in that split-second reaction. But here's where you change the game. You pause. The Stoics were masters of the pause. They believed that between every event and your reaction, there was a sacred space. A space where you got to choose. Epictetus said it perfectly. It's not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. That judgment, the meaning you assign, the story you tell yourself, that's what creates the emotional storm. And you can only change the story if you give yourself a moment to breathe. Let me give you a real example. Someone says something that feels like a personal attack. Maybe they criticize you in front of others. Maybe they blame you for something unfairly. Your instinct might be to snap back, defend yourself, or shrink away. But what happens if you pause? What if you say to yourself, hold on, I don't need to respond right now. I need to understand what's really happening. That pause gives you space. Space to think. Space to feel. Space to step back and see clearly. Is this really about you, or is this person projecting something? Is this feedback, or is it control dressed as concern? Are you being invited into a conversation or pulled into a power play? Without the pause, you're a puppet. With the pause, you're a person. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. At first it might feel awkward. You'll feel the pressure to say something, to explain, to resolve the tension. But don't. Take the breath. Count to 3. Look them in the eye, or if you're in a message, wait before typing. Recenter yourself. Ask, what would my highest self do right now? That question alone can shift everything. Because you're not trying to win an argument, you're trying to stay in alignment. You're not here to match their emotion. You're here to master yours, and once you own that pause, you own your life. So start small. Pause before you reply. Pause before you defend. Pause before you absorb someone else's pain and make it your job to fix. That pause is sacred. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. Now let's go deeper into one of the sharpest tools of self-defense you'll ever have. Question the narrative. This strategy can change everything because manipulation lives in distortion. It lives in false stories, twisted truths that are designed to make you doubt yourself, your memory, your worth, or your instincts. If a manipulator can get you to believe their story, they don't need to control your behavior. You'll do it for them. That's why you must learn to question the narrative. The Stoics were relentless in their pursuit of clarity. They didn't take anything at face value. They examined their thoughts like scientists, not just to figure out what they believed, but why. They asked, is this true? Is this useful? Is this in my control? These questions became shields against delusion and against deception. When someone says, you always do this, don't accept it. Examine it. Ask, always? Is that accurate, or is that an emotional exaggeration? When someone says, you're being selfish, ask yourself, am I being selfish, or am I setting a healthy boundary that they don't like? When someone says, everyone agrees with me, ask, who exactly is everyone, and why does that matter? Manipulators thrive on vague accusations, emotional language, and half-truths. They drop lines that sound powerful but crumble under inspection. Your job is to inspect. You don't have to argue with them out loud, but you do need to argue for your own clarity. Think of it this way. Every time someone speaks to you, they're offering you a story. It could be a true one. It could be a poisoned one. Your mind is the filter. If you just let every story in, you become their mirror. But if you ask questions, honest, grounded, focused questions, you become your own mirror. This doesn't mean you never accept feedback. It means you don't accept confusion. If something doesn't sit right, you don't ignore it. You explore it. If someone says something that triggers guilt, pause and question. Is this guilt valid or planted? Is this regret, or is this someone else's discomfort being handed to you? And this questioning is not about being combative, it's about being clear. Stoicism teaches us that a free mind is one that sees clearly. And to see clearly, you have to question what enters your mind, even your own thoughts. Especially your own thoughts. So next time you feel pulled into someone else's emotional story, step back and ask, what's the real narrative here? Who benefits from me believing this? Then rewrite it. Ground it in evidence. Align it with your values. Make it your truth, not theirs. Because once you start questioning the narrative, you stop being a character in someone else's script. You become the author of your own. And that's where freedom begins. Let's keep going. Guard your language, guard your mind. This one might surprise you. Most people don't realize how much language shapes reality, not just for others, but for yourself. The words you use are not just sounds. They are beliefs spoken aloud. They are mental programming, and when you use the wrong language, especially the kind that has been fed to you by manipulators, you start to believe it without even knowing. Language is how manipulators get in. They twist meanings, they plant seeds, they say things like, "I'm only saying this because I care," while hurting you. Or, "You're too sensitive," after crossing a line. Or, "You owe me," after you've done nothing wrong. And over time, if you don't examine the language, you begin to repeat it. You say things like, "I guess I overreacted," or "Maybe I do owe them," or "I shouldn't have said anything." But here's what the Stoics knew. Clarity of speech reflects clarity of thought. If you let your language get muddied, your mind will follow. If you speak in vague, self-doubting terms, your confidence will erode. But if you speak with precision, with intention, with integrity, you begin to think that way too. You begin to reclaim control of your inner world. Start paying attention to the words you use, especially the ones that sound innocent. Words like should, must, can't, always, never. These are manipulative words in disguise. They turn choices into chains. They make preferences sound like moral laws. "I should go to this event, or they'll be upset." No, you're choosing to go because you fear conflict. Own it or change it. But don't lie to yourself with language. Even more subtle are the labels we accept. "I'm bad at confrontation." "I'm too emotional." "I just don't want to be difficult." These are stories someone planted in you, and if you keep speaking them, they'll become your prison. You need to become the guardian of your own vocabulary. Speak cleanly, speak truthfully, speak as if your words create the structure of your reality, because they do. This doesn't mean you need to become rigid or robotic. It means you need to start noticing when your words are creating guilt where there should be confidence, or when your sentences are echoing the voice of someone who tried to control you. You can reprogram your language. You can start small. Change "I have to" into "I choose to." Change "I can't" into "I won't." Change "I'm sorry for being honest" into "Thank you for listening." Change "I'm too much" into "I'm enough for the right people." These shifts might sound small, but they are revolutionary. Because when you speak as someone who is free, you start to believe it. And when you believe it, others will feel it too. Guard your language like a sacred temple. Don't let manipulation sneak in through your own mouth. Because once you take charge of the words you speak, you begin to reclaim the mind that speaks them. Now we come to one of the deepest roots of Stoic power. Control the controllable, release the rest. This is a Stoic principle so foundational that everything else we've talked about builds on it. At the heart of emotional manipulation is one toxic illusion: that you can or should control how other people feel, think, or act, that you are responsible for their emotions, that you can manage their perception of you. But that is the fastest way to become a prisoner in your own life. Epictetus put it simply: some things are up to us, and some things are not. Your thoughts, yours. Your actions, yours. Your character, yours. But their emotions, their reactions, their stories, not yours. And yet we spend so much of our lives chasing the impossible, trying to get everyone to like us, agree with us, understand us, and manipulators use that. They dangle it in front of us like a carrot. If you were just a little more understanding, I wouldn't be upset. If you just did what I asked, I'd feel better. If you don't respond, I'll assume you don't care. And we fall for it, because we think, maybe I can fix this. Maybe I can earn peace by pleasing them. But you can't. You can only create peace within yourself. That's the part you control. Imagine carrying a heavy bag that doesn't belong to you. You keep adjusting it, hoping it gets lighter, but it never does because it's not yours. That's what it's like trying to manage someone else's feelings. You weren't made to carry their emotional weight. You were made to live with clarity, compassion, and strength, but not control. This mindset will free you. You start asking new questions. Not, how can I fix them? But, what's in my control right now? Not, why don't they understand me? But, am I living in truth? Not, how do I get them to stop manipulating me? But, how can I stand firm regardless of what they do? When you live this way, you become unshakable. Not because life is easy, but because you've stopped trying to hold up what was never yours. You begin to draw a line, not in anger, but in clarity. You say, I love you, but I can't carry your emotions. Or, I hear you, but I'm not responsible for your reactions. Or simply, this is what I choose, whether or not it pleases you. And there's freedom in that. Because the moment you stop trying to control what you can't, all your energy comes back to you. You're no longer drained. You're no longer chasing peace in someone else's unpredictable world. You're cultivating it in your own. So the next time you feel the pull to fix, to explain, to smooth things over, pause. Ask, is this in my control? If it is, act with wisdom. If it's not, let it go. Not with resentment, but with peace. Because real strength is not about domination. It's about discernment, knowing what's yours to hold and what's yours to release. And once you master that, no manipulator can touch your center. Because your peace is not in their hands, it never was. Expect manipulation, not utopia. This one's a reality check, and it's an essential piece of the Stoic mindset. A lot of pain comes not just from what happens to us, but from our expectations of how things should be. We think people should always be honest, that relationships should always feel fair, that if we're kind, others will naturally be kind in return. But life doesn't always work that way. And when it doesn't, we feel shocked, betrayed, hurt. But here's what the Stoics taught. Don't be surprised by human nature. Prepare for it. Marcus Aurelius used to remind himself every morning, today you will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Not to become cynical, but to remain centered. Because when you expect life to be fair, you become fragile. But when you expect life to be life, messy, flawed, unpredictable, you become unshakable. The same applies to manipulation. It exists. It's real. It's out there in relationships, workplaces, even in people who genuinely believe they love you. And if you live in denial of that, you'll be blindsided. But if you accept it, you can face it with calm eyes and a strong heart. So what does this look like practically? It means going into relationships with open eyes, not just an open heart. It means listening for patterns, not just promises. It means recognizing red flags as information, not as invitations to fix someone. And most importantly, it means never sacrificing your peace just to maintain a fantasy. This isn't about becoming suspicious or guarded. It's about becoming prepared. You stop thinking, this shouldn't be happening, and you start thinking, there it is. The storm I trained for. That shift changes everything. You're no longer thrown off by manipulation. You're simply reminded to apply your principles. Seneca said, "He is most powerful who has power over himself." That includes the power to stay calm when others try to stir your emotions. To stay grounded when others lie, guilt trip, or play the victim. When you expect manipulation, not in paranoia, but in wisdom, you stop handing out the benefit of the doubt blindly. You start giving the benefit of observation. This mindset protects you. It keeps you alert but not bitter, strong but not hard. You learn to see manipulation not as a personal betrayal, but as a human tendency you don't need to participate in. You don't argue with it. You don't try to change it. You simply notice it, name it, and respond in a way that honors your integrity. So stop waiting for a world where no one will test you. Build yourself for the world as it is. Because when you expect reality, you're not surprised, you're prepared, and that preparation becomes your power. Now let's move into a strategy that might feel uncomfortable but is absolutely essential. Train yourself in truth-telling. This one is for the moments when silence feels safer. When you feel like speaking, your truth will make things worse. When you're tempted to twist your words to make someone else feel better, that's where manipulation grows, in the space where truth is avoided. But the Stoics were committed to truth, not because it was easy, but because it was the only path to inner freedom. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because truth isn't about appearances, it's not about being liked. It's about living in alignment with your principles, even when it costs you something. Manipulators rely on your silence, your hesitation, your discomfort with confrontation. They thrive when you say what you think they want to hear. But when you speak the truth, with calm, with clarity, with conviction, they lose their grip. Because truth is the end of illusion, it cuts through games like a sword. Truth-telling doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. It can be quiet, measured, but it must be honest. I feel disrespected when you speak to me like that. I'm not comfortable with that request. I see what you're trying to do, and I'm choosing not to participate. These words are simple, but they are lightning bolts. Not because they're aggressive, but because they're clean. They're not designed to hurt, but they refuse to hide. And yes, telling the truth might make some people uncomfortable. It might lead to distance. It might bring tension. But the cost of avoiding the truth is always higher. Because every time you lie to keep the peace, you create war inside yourself. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes to lose your own voice. So you have to train in it. Practice saying small truths, even when they feel awkward. Start by being honest with yourself. What do I want? What do I feel? What's okay with me and what's not? Then bring that honesty into your relationships. Not with anger, not with blame, just truth. And here's the paradox. The more you tell the truth, the more peaceful you become. Not because life gets easier, but because you stop pretending. You stop carrying the weight of unspoken pain. You stop living a double life. One for them, one for you. Truth is your protection. It's your sword and your shield. And when you wield it with wisdom, you don't need to manipulate and you don't need to fear manipulation, because you're standing in the light, and in the light, nothing hidden can survive. So make a decision right now. Decide that from this point on, your voice will not be used to maintain someone else's illusion. It will be used to reflect your reality. That is the path of strength. That is the path of freedom. Let's keep going. You're doing powerful work. Never argue when your soul is on fire. You know that feeling. The heat rising in your chest, the tension in your jaw, the words forming in your mouth, ready to burst. When someone says something unfair, cruel, manipulative, or just flat out wrong, and you want to set the record straight, you want to prove your point, you want to win. But that's exactly the moment to stop, because when your soul is on fire, when your emotions are inflamed, you're not in control. And if you're not in control, someone else is. The Stoics taught that anger is a form of temporary madness. Seneca wrote entire letters about it, how it blinds our judgment, how it makes us say things we regret, how it feeds the very chaos we're trying to escape. When someone manipulates you, they want you in that emotional state. Because then your defenses are down, you're reactive, you become a mirror of their dysfunction. You lose your footing. So here's the practice. When you feel the fire, don't speak, don't type. Don't send, don't post, withdraw. Step back, breathe, let the fire burn out before you act. This isn't weakness, this is power under control, this is wisdom in motion. It doesn't mean you never address the issue, it means you wait until the heat has cooled and your values have returned to the surface. You respond from clarity, not combustion. You speak from alignment, not adrenaline. Think of it like this. A fire can cook a meal or burn down a house. Same energy. Different direction. Your anger is valid. It's information. But what you do with it, that's your responsibility. And the Stoic chooses to transform fire into fuel, not destruction. So next time someone triggers you and everything in you wants to fight back, ask yourself, do I want to be right in this moment, or do I want to be free? Because the truth is, most arguments aren't about truth. They're about ego, about control, about winning. And once you realize that, you can rise above them. You can take the higher path, not because you're passive, but because you're principled. And there's a beautiful peace in that. You're no longer dragged into every emotional skirmish. You stop answering to every provocation. You start choosing your battles based on values, not feelings. And that shift is the beginning of emotional mastery. So remember, never argue when your soul is on fire. Let it cool. Then speak with precision, not passion. And watch how much more powerful your words become when they come from stillness. Now we come to a strategy that can feel like surrender, but is actually a sign of strength. Know when to leave the battlefield. Some conversations don't need to be finished. Some relationships don't need to be saved. Some people don't need another chance to twist your words, test your peace, or drain your energy. And sometimes the most powerful move is not to fight harder, but to walk away. This isn't about bitterness. It's about boundaries. It's about recognizing when the battlefield you're standing on is not a place of growth, but a cycle of harm. The Stoics weren't afraid to walk away from what didn't serve their inner peace. They believed that your time, your energy, your spirit, they are sacred. And anything that consistently pulls you out of alignment with your values is not worth preserving for the sake of pride, guilt, or history. We're taught that walking away means failure, that staying and fixing is always the virtuous thing. But sometimes staying is actually enabling. Sometimes staying is self-abandonment. And if you find yourself explaining the same thing over and over to someone who refuses to hear, that's not communication, it's exhaustion. If you find yourself apologizing just to reset the cycle, that's not reconciliation, it's manipulation. If you have to shrink your truth to stay in the room, you're not in a relationship, you're in a performance. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to you. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your presence just because you once gave them your heart. The battlefield may have been necessary once. It may have taught you something. It may have shown you your own strength. But you're allowed to walk off it now. You're allowed to choose peace over war. Not the kind of peace that hides from conflict, but the kind that refuses to keep bleeding for people who hand you the knife. This isn't an easy decision. It takes courage to step away without closure, to leave without being understood. To stop fighting for someone to see your worth and to simply see it yourself. But it's also freedom. Because when you walk away from manipulation, you walk back into integrity. You return to yourself, and that return is worth more than any temporary validation someone else could ever offer. So look around your life. Where are you still fighting battles that are already lost? Where are you still hoping for transformation that isn't coming? Where are you still pouring energy into proving yourself to people who never deserved your presence? You don't have to stay, you're allowed to go, and in that going you reclaim your power. Let's keep going. You're getting stronger with every step. Cultivate daily reflection. This is where everything we've talked about becomes part of your life. Not just in the big moments, but in the small, quiet ones when no one else is watching. Manipulation doesn't just happen in arguments or dramatic conversations. It creeps in through subtle patterns, through routines, through your own thoughts and responses. And if you're not actively reflecting, those patterns go unnoticed. They settle in like dust until one day you realize your clarity is gone, your boundaries are thin, and your peace has been quietly drained. Daily reflection is how you take your power back. The Stoics practiced this religiously. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, ended each day with reflection. He wrote to himself, not to be impressive, but to be honest. To ask, what did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What tempted me off my path? What brought me closer to the person I want to be? That practice was his mirror, and you need one too. Because in the rush of life, it's easy to miss the little compromises. It's easy to forget that moment when you stayed silent to avoid tension, even though you felt it wasn't right. Or the moment you took on guilt that didn't belong to you, just to make someone else feel better. These things add up, and without reflection, they become who you are. But with reflection, they become lessons. You start to notice the patterns, you start to name the feelings, you start to reconnect with your values before the world pulls you away from them. Reflection is not judgment, it's alignment. It's you saying, I care enough about my growth that I will look at myself with honest eyes. It doesn't have to be complex, just 5 minutes at the end of the day. Sit quietly. Ask yourself 3 simple questions. Where did I feel most like myself today? Where did I feel manipulated, pressured, or confused? What do I want to do differently tomorrow? That's it. That practice, repeated daily, becomes your anchor. It becomes your reset button. It becomes your way back home. Because here's the truth, you won't always get it right. You will have moments where you fall back into old patterns, where you say yes when you meant no, where you silence your truth because you didn't want to rock the boat. That's okay, you're human, but daily reflection ensures you don't stay lost. It brings you back, it reminds you who you are and who you're becoming. It also reminds you that growth doesn't happen in giant leaps. It happens in the small, consistent steps, in the quiet commitment to live with integrity, in the decision to end each day not with shame, but with awareness. So start today. Make a promise to yourself. I will reflect. I will pay attention. I will not live my life asleep to my own power. That promise is what makes you unmanipulable, not perfection, but presence. Now we come to the final strategy. Keep returning to the stillness within. After all the techniques, all the boundaries, all the strength, this is what it's all about. There is a stillness inside you, a place that no one else can touch. A place that is yours alone. And the entire purpose of these strategies is to help you protect that place, to help you return to it when the world tries to pull you away. The Stoics called it ataraxia, tranquility, serenity, peace of mind. Not the absence of problems, but the absence of disturbance. It's the kind of calm that comes when you're no longer at the mercy of other people's moods, stories, or expectations. It's the kind of stillness that exists when you stop trying to fix everything outside of you and start tending to the garden within you. When someone tries to manipulate you, they're trying to shake your inner world. They want you off balance, uncertain, reactive. But when you live from that stillness, you don't move, you don't flinch, you don't get swept up in every emotional wave. Instead, you observe, you breathe, you decide. You hold your center like a sacred flame. This isn't about being emotionally detached or numb. It's about being deeply rooted. When your roots go deep, the wind can blow, the storms can howl, but you're not going anywhere. That's the kind of peace Stoicism offers, not a peace based on everything going right, but a peace that remains when everything goes wrong. To return to that stillness, you have to slow down. You have to create space in your life for silence, for solitude, for still moments where you ask yourself, what do I know to be true right now? What do I feel in my body, in my breath, in my spirit? You have to remind yourself that you are not your fears, not your roles, not someone's version of you. You are a soul, a mind, a light. And that light doesn't flicker just because someone else doesn't see it. When you live from that place, manipulation becomes easy to spot. It's loud. It's needy. It's demanding. And you, from your stillness, can simply say, "No, not today, not anymore. I'm no longer available for anything that costs me my clarity." So find your stillness, protect it like your most sacred treasure. Return to it when life gets loud. Breathe into it when your mind wants to rush. It is your sanctuary, your strength, your home. And every time you return, you remember the truth. Nothing outside you has the power to steal your peace unless you hand it over. You don't need to fight to prove your worth. You don't need to argue to protect your truth. You don't need to chase love that demands your silence. You just need to return to that place inside you that already knows, that already sees, that already is enough. That's the heart of Stoicism. And it's the heart of your freedom. Stay with me. We're almost there. Let's finish this together. So, here we are. You've walked through 16 strategies, not just as theories, but as tools. Tools you can use to protect your mind, your heart, your spirit. And if you've made it this far, let me tell you something you might need to hear. You're not weak for having been manipulated. You're not broken for having let someone in who didn't treat your soul with care. You're human. And more than that, you're growing. Growth doesn't always come in the form of big wins or loud breakthroughs. Sometimes it looks like a quiet decision to stop explaining yourself. Sometimes it's the strength to take a deep breath instead of sending that text. Sometimes it's the moment you realize you don't need to chase peace. You just need to stop giving it away. What you've done today is not small. You've chosen to confront the patterns that have kept you stuck. You've chosen awareness over illusion, truth over approval. Clarity over comfort, that's rare, that's powerful. Let me remind you, you are not here to be someone's emotional puppet. You are not here to be guilted, gaslit, or drained by people who cannot face their own shadows. You are here to live in truth. You are here to speak with courage. You are here to stand in your values, even if your voice shakes. The Stoics knew that the real battles are not outside us, they are within. And once you win those inner battles, once you learn to master your responses, to question false narratives, to choose presence over panic, no manipulator can move you, not for long, because you will have built something they cannot touch, a soul anchored in truth. You may still face hard moments, you may still be tested, people might still try to press your buttons. But now you know those buttons are not theirs to press, they are yours to dismantle, and when you do, you don't become hard. You don't become bitter. You become strong in the way that only truth makes a person strong. You walk into rooms differently. You carry your silence with authority. You speak less, but when you do, it lands. You smile, not because everything is easy, but because nothing owns you anymore. That's the shift, that's the transformation, so keep going. Keep practicing. These 16 strategies are not something to memorize, they're something to live. Let them become part of your rhythm. Let them change how you respond, how you love, how you lead. And if this message has spoken to something inside you, if you've felt your spine straighten, your chest open, your mind clear, then take a moment right now and breathe into that space. That's yours. That's the real you rising. You don't owe the world your compliance. You owe yourself your integrity. And you're allowed to protect it. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to speak. You're allowed to guard your peace like a flame in the wind. Because that peace is not weakness, it's your power. And from this day forward, may you protect it like your life depends on it, because in many ways, it does. Thank you for showing up, for choosing clarity, for standing in truth. And if this journey has lit even a small fire in you, I invite you to keep it alive. Share this message with someone who needs to remember their strength, Return to it when the world gets loud. Let it be a reminder. You are not here to be moved by manipulation. You are here to move through life with intention, with dignity, with peace that cannot be stolen. This is your time now. Walk forward with your eyes open, your mind clear and your spirit grounded. I'll see you on the path.